right, build your credibility. Step number 6, build your credibility. In a way, I remember I told you this needs to come at the beginning, but it's much easier for me to explain at the end. But when you're talking to people, you need to build up the credibility at the beginning. I'm going to give you 10 ways to build up credibility. Most of you, what I will share with you right now, you will not be able to go for all those 10. So don't get upset. You start with what you have, but you need to stack the others in time. So it's good to have them. So please, I'm going to give you what you need to do. I'm going to give you my example so you'll see how that works for us and how we use it. But, you know, we are 5 or 10 years ahead of you, so it doesn't have to be the same. But those 10 principles, you should start focusing on them. Those are 10 elements that will help you to build your credibility as an expert. Okay? All right, the first one, perspective. Okay, perspective. I'd like to think that perspective is one of the most important elements of being an expert, of being the credibility. Perspective means that you have an overview on the subject. You don't have this limited, because many times experts, we think about those people that know a lot about something small, right? But you need to know a lot. You need to know a lot about that specific subject. That's perspective. Perspective can be created in two ways. One is you did lots of research. Does that make sense? If you will do lots and lots of research about the mating habits of the black goldfish, then you will have a lot of perspective. You will know when it's successful, when it's not successful, what kind of diseases they have that is sexually transmitted, and you'll know in what terrarium or whatever it's called that they are doing it best, etc., etc. Okay, so you will have a lot of perspective because you did a lot of research. You are not necessarily a black goldfish yourself, but you had lots of research about that. Does that make sense? The other one is having your own experience. Those both will give you perspective, but you need to have it. You need to have either one or the other. My preference, have both. Most experts in the world don't have both. They have one or the other. So you'll have people that have a lot of expertise because they did a lot of research. Okay, so they did a lot of research, they got a lot of information, they have no clue because they never did it themselves, but they have a lot of, they just did a lot of research. And I don't want to go into names because this is very popular here in Holland. Okay, let's not do the work, let's just read the books and interview the experts. It's okay, but this is one part of it. The other one is the experience. For my experience, here's mine, okay, when I want to build credibility. First of all, I did study with most of the top experts in the world about entrepreneurship. Most experts in the world, and I can go on with names from Jay Abraham, which is probably the top marketing experts ever lived, which I spent time with him personally. So I studied with all those people personally. It was Jack Canfield, which is more of a personal development and about writing a book for those that know him from Chicken Soup for the Soul, and his partner Mark Victor Hansen in totally different settings. Chet Holmes, that unfortunately is not with us anymore, but he's the top salesperson in the world, became a good friend after I studied with him as a student. Harv Eker, for those of you that heard about him. Rich Sheffrin, I'm going to meet him now, and I'm going to go there next week, and I'm going to spend with him a few days. I did it with him for a few times, but this is time that I'm spending one-on-one with him because he's the top business strategist in the world. Okay, for example, I can say many more, but those people I studied with them, I spent, both Verd and me spent about $250,000 for a couple of years just studying with those people, flying over, meeting them, going to all their courses, doing this kind of thing. Guys, the point I'm trying to mention is not the names. What I'm trying to say is that I spend the time learning with them, so that's one thing that gives me perspective. But for me, that's not enough. But if that's what you have lots of research, that's great. What I can give from the other point of perspective is that I'm an entrepreneur now since 1986, right? So that's 27 years or something like that. So 27 years of entrepreneurship, 7 different businesses, 3 different continents, 5 different industries. Okay, that gives me a little bit of perspective. Most people, if they have a business, they will have the same business for the rest of their lives. I had 7 of those. Okay, 7 successful businesses. I also have some failures, and I have no problem to share them. But the point was that all those companies at one point or another became very successful. And that's another part of perspective, which in my opinion is a lot more important, but the two of them together is a killing combination. Is that making sense? Do you understand that it gives me some perspective? Okay, and I had offline companies, online companies, etc., etc. So that's me. You need to figure out for yourself what is your perspective. Okay, I can also say, listen, I started this as a pair, just like you, and within a few years we became the fastest growing company in Europe, and it started becoming more than that, I think, in our field. Okay, so that's also give me perspective because I was there, now I'm here. Don't know where I will be in 5 years, but it gives me a little bit of a perspective. So you need to find out what is your unique perspective. Okay, so again, when I'm saying it, if something comes up to you, write it down because I'm going to go further to the next one. The second one, you need to have a philosophy. You have one. Marie just said, yes, that I got that. Philosophy, what it means is that if you have a very different way of thinking or looking at the problems of your market or how to solve them, then you have something that gives you a lot of points of credibility. If you are just like everybody else, that doesn't give you a lot of credibility. If you are a me too, I'm also a coach. I just don't do that with goats, I do that with chickens, or whatever it is. I'm teaching leadership with chickens. That might give you some points, but if you can have some unique philosophy or unique way of thinking about things, that gives you an advantage. We have a few of those, but I'm just going to mention one which I mentioned before, but this is really, really important, and we emphasize that all the time. We are one of the only organizations in the world that we know that teaching this type of material from our own experience. And when I'm teaching you how to write a book in 28 days, it's because I wrote all my books in 28 days or less. And although Rani, which many of you know her, and she could teach because she saw this course so many times, she could teach this course in her sleep, she's not going to get the stage because she didn't finish her book. Simple as that. She doesn't have the right. She's not a bad person. She's great, and she's a great trainer. She could deliver it at least as good as me, if not more. But it's not fits our philosophy. Our philosophy is we only teach you what we do, what we live. Does that make sense? This is totally the opposite, by the way, from most of the organization. Most of the organization will say, I live what I teach. We say, no, we teach what we live, which is the opposite. And it's very, very different, and I'm not going to go into that right now. But this is our unique philosophy. And for many people, that's the reason why they come to us. For many people. Third, your personal journey. Probably this is the one that is the most important, and that each and every one of you have, this way or another. What's your personal journey? What brought you here to be able to talk about that? For me, I had those businesses, I had those companies. I failed with one of them big time, although it was the company that made me a millionaire at the beginning. When I was 23, I became a self-made millionaire for my software company, but a few years later, I lost everything. I made enough mistake to lose everything that I had, and a lot more than that. And I had to fire 25 of my people, which were my family at that time, in my feelings. Okay, so I have quite a lot of quite a journey, and then the journey continued because I didn't know what to do anymore. I was totally lost. I left Israel together with Verd. We traveled the world for a while. We found ourselves in Holland with nothing. Sorry, with a lot less than nothing. We found ourselves with $800,000 in debt at that time, with no income source whatsoever. Verd started working as an employee. I didn't know what to do, so I started, giving those training, cutting the apples, and everything. And I struggled for 10 years. For 10 years as a ZZ payer, until I got to the point that, no, what I need is to become an expert, otherwise I'm like everybody else. I would do these brochures, but they were in English, so there was not a lot of places to put them, so the only place that I could find to put those brochures was in the American bookstore in Amsterdam. But you know how many other brochures were there? I would never get students as a result of that. But that's what everybody else did. Until I realized I need to become an expert, to be known as an expert. And I started the path, and that's where we are today. That's my journey. I can give you another journey, totally different. I was a couch potato for all my life, until I was 40. I would never walk out of the house if I need to get to the supermarket, which is 200 meters away. Why? I paid for a car. So I'm driving a car. I never, rode a bicycle or walked or ran or whatever it is, nothing. But at the age of 40, I realized I need to do something about my body, and I decided that I'm going to run the marathon in my 40th year. So it was the New York Marathon, so it was in November 2008. I'm trying to remember how old I am. It took me 6 months to move from a couch potato to actually, top sport. I mean, the marathon is a top sport. It's not that I did it in 2 hours and 5 minutes, but I still did the marathon in a reasonable amount of time, and I finished that within 6 months. I can write, this is my journey, and I can write a book about it if I want. And the funny thing is that as soon as people hear about it, they want to know how. Do you understand? If you did a process, if you went through a journey, people that this relates to them, if you don't care anything about marathon, you wouldn't come. But people that think about the marathon and say, hey, this guy from a couch potato became a top athlete, how? In 6 months, I want to know. And they come to ask me. And I just send them to the person that showed me how to do that. But I could also teach that if I wanted. Does that make sense? So you need to find out what is your journey, where you once overweight and struggled with the yo-yo diet up and down for 15 years, and at one point you got how to do that, change your mindset, started meditating, do whatever you do, start eating right, and then now, 10 years later, look at me. Well. But you understand what I'm saying? If you were there, I can never teach you how to stop smoking. Never. Because I never smoked, ever in my life. Can't teach you. Rani could teach you how to stop smoking like crazy, because she smoked all her life. And at one point when she made the decision, after so many times that she failed in that, one point she made the decision, she used some tools, and she finished it. That's it. I was witness to that. And she can enthusiast and inspire and motivate anybody if that's what she would choose to teach, because she's been there. Now, this is again what happens in Holland many times, is that there are all those people that are teaching stuff that they never been through. But I ask you, if you're an expert, if you want to build an expert, you need to go through the journey. That will be one of the biggest credibility you can imagine. You think that the diplomas that you learn are giving you credibility. No. That's everybody can get a diploma. But going through 10 years of struggle and going out of it, that's what people want to know. I want to know, if I'm struggling with the divorce, I want to learn from somebody that went through a divorce, went through a horrible divorce maybe, and then made it out of the other side and have a happy relationship with his ex and his kids and everything. Does that make sense? I want to learn, when I will get cancer, I want to learn not from a doctor, but I want to learn from somebody that went through the cancer and went through the whole process. Because that's somebody that I believe that can share with me something that is of value. Yes, I will use the expert opinion also of doctors maybe in this specific case, but I want to hear from those people that went through the struggle, through the process, and went on the other side, because they have something the doctor will never have. Does that make sense? How many of you have a story, a journey? This is your biggest credibility. Biggest credibility. It needs to be everywhere. Some people came to, when we teach that in other courses, we teach that much more in depth, and we teach you what to write, and people are going like freaking out. What? I put it on my About Us, that I was struggling with overweight or with addiction and I say yes. And it's really scary for people, but that's what you put there. Have a look at our About Us, and you will find my story there with the failure and everything. That's what builds up credibility. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, next one, the fourth, popularity. This is cool, but it might not fit for you. Okay? How popular you are. So if you got for yourself, like for example, I can say I'm an author of a bestseller book. Okay, a bestseller book, that's a popularity thing. It says, wow, a lot of people read it, then it must be popular. The business bootcamp is the biggest seminar, is the biggest business seminar in Holland, probably in Europe. Okay, there is no other business seminar for small businesses that gets 1,200 people every time. There isn't. Okay, so is that building credibility? Guys, of course it is. You might not like the massa of people, like many DH people, I don't like the massa, but it builds credibility. So you might not have it, but what maybe you have, I got 2,000 hits to my YouTube video. Put it down there. I have 15,000 Twitter followers. Put it down there. Anything that shows that you're popular, it means that you have social proof, you want to put it there. Okay, at the beginning, when you're just starting a business, you will not have it, so forget about it. But you want to remember that, because as soon as something happens, you want to make a big thing out of it. Okay, probably in a couple of weeks we will get it to the 40,000 comments on our blog. After 3 years, it exists now for 3 years, and we are standing on 39,200 or something. So in a couple of weeks, we'll get to the 40,000. What do you think, that we will hide it? We will do a little dance in the office and not let you know? Of course we let you know. And those of you that with us for a while, you saw 20,000, 30,000, now it's the 40,000. Okay? Because that makes this social proof, this popularity. You want to put it as soon as you have it. So as soon as you get that, put that. And if you already have something, make sure that it's everywhere. You need to have that. The next one, number 5, this is something I did with you in the morning, in the first sentence that I said, or almost the first sentence. This is your role or your position. It sounds, I don't like it usually, but it works. It just works on people like crazy. So, you should be aware of that. I'm the founder of Open Circles Academy, and I'm the creator of the Business Bootcamp. And I'm the author, the best-selling author of The Elements of Success, or in Dutch, Leef Lekker. Those names, those titles, people somehow, put a lot of emphasis, put a lot of importance of them. So put that. If you're an author, a founder, a creator, a CEO, whatever it is, and you are, right? You are the founder of your own company, right? And you're the creator of your own business system, right? So make sure that you communicate it with us words. I'm a coach. Yeah, great. I'm the creator of ta-ta-ta-ta-tam system. That sounds very, very different, isn't it? Okay? I'm a trainer, or I'm the creator of the MGSPI success system, the only success system that works. Huh? Exaggerating, but you understand the point, right? So make sure that if you're having any one of those, and you should have at least, the creator and the founder, then make sure that you're not hiding them. It's not easy to say that, and people sometimes look at it a bit funny, but it works. Most people it really affects them. Number 6. Okay, number 6, progress. This is a little bit like what we mentioned before about the journey, but it has a twist. Okay, a progress. If you ever took a company from 0 to, I don't know, 1 million, that's a progress, right? There's a progress there. If you ever came from bankruptcy to something, that's a progress. If you've been 20 kilos overweight and now you're nominated to be a Miss or Mr. Or whatever it is, Holland, or universe, universe is better. So then do it. Because when people see your progress, they go, wow, if he or she can do that, I can do that. And this is something that for me really difficult with some of you, because you don't see the progress, and I cannot demonstrate that. If you will ask people like Peter or like Thorsten or people or Rick or people that have been with us, they saw the process, they can understand it. If it's the first time or you just met us this year and you see us with 1,000 people in the room or whatever it is, it's very hard to see the progress. So make sure that you communicate the progress really clearly for people. I started here and I finished there. Does that make sense? People want to know that. Okay, people want to know that. I have lots of people that are coming to me and says, well, you came to Holland from Israel, which is a totally different country, it's a totally different mentality, culture, whatever it is, and you succeeded. What? How? So people want to know how I made that. It was never important for me. I'm never going to teach that. But it's important for them because they're thinking about emigrating. And maybe I can share something there. It's a progress. Does that make sense? Yes. Are we clear? Yes. All right. Number 7. That you heard from me many times. You need to do that. Testimonials and endorsements. If you get anybody that says that your book, your treatment, your program, your product or service, your coaching is great, make sure that you get it on paper or on video and you make it big everywhere. We are very big on that. People sometimes say you have thousands of testimonials. That sounds too much. There is never too much testimonials. Never too much testimonials. People don't have to read them. They just need to see that there are so many of them. And they will pick up the ones that are right for them. And we will get all kinds of testimonials from text testimonials. If you've been with us to any big training, you'll see that we ask from everybody testimonial. We finish with about 1,000 testimonials after every single training. And they are all positive. And most of them are willing that we will put their name. We don't use them because there are so many of those, so we don't use a lot of them. We use just very remarkable ones. But we use a lot of videos that you will see. We have success stories compared to testimonials, which is different. Now we have this book that is going to go out and we'll blow it out of the water. So as much as you can, LinkedIn recommendation, we mentioned that in other courses, all those are important. You might not have known right now, then you get the first one. You go to a happy client and you ask them, would you be willing to write a few things for me? A few words, not more than that. If you can get somebody famous, like what I have on my book, or Verde has on her book, then that's great. That's even better. But even if you have just your students or your clients, this is where you want to start. Does that make sense? Yes. Guys, that makes sense? Yes. You all can do that. If you have clients, how many of you have at least one happy client? All right. Now I'm going to confront you a little bit. How many of you have at least one client that you didn't verbally ask yet for a testimonial? Ask them tomorrow. Send them an email, send them a LinkedIn message, and tell them, I'm growing my business, and I want to show other people my expertise. I know that you enjoy my product or service. Would you be willing to say a few words about that? And you will be amazed how many of them are happy to do that. Not everybody, if you're dealing with something very delicate, if you're dealing with drug addiction or with, I don't know what, there are some places where people will not be happy to put their name and face on a testimonial. But in most cases, they will be happy to do that as a thank you. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, that's testimonials and endorsement. 3 last ones for this. Media appearance. If you've been in the papers, if you've been in the television, if you've been on radio, all this needs to be everywhere. It needs to be on your website, in your brochures, everywhere. It doesn't have to be a big paper. If you had a local paper writing about you, start with that. Okay? Whenever we get a big piece in a paper or a magazine, we usually will make a mail about it and let everybody know. And then it's kind of disappearing among the other information. But we will make a big thing out of it at that time. For me, PR is never PR to the outside world. When they put an article in a magazine, I don't care how many people see that. I want you to see that. I build a PR with you, because if I tell you that we've just been to Spitz or to Metro or to a Terhaf or whatever it is, then you can use that to show it to your friends. Does that make sense? So I don't care so much about the strangers that are reading it, because it won't make a big difference. We never saw a big peak on traffic, for example, because the Telehaf wrote something about us. But as soon as we communicate to our people, and that can be big or 2 weeks later, then we see the traffic goes, because people are using it. Your audience will use it. Does that make sense? So this is very, very valuable. Make sure that you put that. It's build your expertise. And I can give you tons of those that we got, but I'm sure that you can get yourself. Now, the next one is something that many of you, especially if you work business to business, is very, very, very important, and I'm sure that you do that already. I just want to emphasize this is important. Okay, paid clients. How many of you have clients that actually pays you? Good. Now, if you have a company that is paying you, let's say that IBM or Apple or Nike or Albert Heijn or whatever it is paying you. It doesn't matter if you did a little job for one of their little departments. It doesn't matter. But if they paid you, you probably put them on your website, right? You should. Okay, you should have a list of clients, paying clients, and Albert Heijn should be there or Nike or whatever it is. But people forget that even if those companies are not big and people don't know them, you still want to put them. Because I might not know this specific company, but it impresses me that you worked with a company. Okay, it will impress me more if you worked with Nike, but if you don't have it, put the other paying clients that you have. And that really works for business to business. And I'm as a business, I'm always interested to know who are the companies that you worked with. We are just now into a very, big purchase that we're going to spend a lot of money on a new system. And the only thing that we checked at the beginning was who did they work with before? And I didn't know any one of those companies, but people in my office knew some of them, and we just picked up the phone and we asked them how happy you were with them. So if you have happy clients that are paid you money, then put them on your website everywhere. Does that make sense? Now, you might not work with companies, then you cannot do that. I cannot do that. I don't have companies that we don't work with in company for many years now, okay, since we became financially free. But I have thousands of people. So I will use the fact that we have in a business bootcamp on average 1,000 or 1,100 people every time. I will use the fact that maybe those are people that are coming for free, but still to bring people for free for 2 days, that's a big deal. But we do have for the bigger training, for the advanced training, if it's Master Entrepreneur, Financial Freedom, Breakthrough to Success, we have between 600 to 800 people paying thousands of euros each to sit in a room. So I'm not going to say, oh, she is there and she is there and she is there, but I can say in the last Master Entrepreneur, we had 650 people paying thousands of euros for that. So I'm using this. The paid client is important, because if people pay you, that means you're, well, I don't know if expert, but at least you're good. Okay, so the more you have that, this is a credibility builder, so use that. And the last, is that making sense, guys? I'm going a little bit fast, but is that making sense? It's not rocket science. Just make sure that you have that as a list. And the last one, and this is what I didn't have, I didn't cover in the last P, but that's the third P. That's the product. You need to have a product. I don't care what it is. It's a book, it's a CD, it's a DVD, it's a course, it's a whatever it is. But you need to have a product. The product separates you. The product position you in a totally whole different level than everybody else. You don't have to sell one of those. You just have to have them. Okay, it's really not important if I sold only one of each one of those. We don't care if we sell those or not. Actually, many times we give them for gifts in the competitions or whatever it is. We're not making money of that. I mean, even if we sell that for 100, 200 euros, this is not where our core business is. That makes sense? But this builds credibility, and we have more of those. Did you notice that we always have a shop? Why? Because it builds credibility when you have products. And actually, I would prefer to have more of those. I would prefer to have something that looks almost like a shop, okay? Just to build up this credibility, especially with new people. Does that make sense? Yes. Was it valuable?